After sort of finishing up with the MBA, I saw you briefly worked as a contractor, but then you joined KPMG,
Yeah.
Another great consulting firm. So why did you pick KPMG? I guess first and foremost, and what did you take away from that experience?
So there's two parts to it, really, as to why I chose KPMG. One was if I came back to doing the executive MBA, I had this opportunity, this amazing opportunity to spend 2 years and really dedicate to learning what I chose to learn more about leadership and explore. And I remember again, and I did this in consulting and did it in while learning the executive MBA, is to never say no to an opportunity or a challenge. And so everything that came my way, I said yes to. I remember at that point, there were different executive programs that were almost side tracks to the MBA that you could opt into, and I just opted in for everything because I had this opportunity to do 2 years. And there were international cases that you could work on with other universities, and I remember doing projects with the UN and the Alfred Hospital, and really, really amazing because I just immersed myself to learn as much as I could. But through that, it was the networks where I got this opportunity to do some contracting work because the team that I was working with, the track was an executive leadership track. And there was someone in that, again, just an inspiration. Her name was Katia Gidley, and she still runs her program today. She looked at how I was approaching things, and she was very inspired by the idea. And I didn't know anything else. That's just my nature. And she came up to me and said, look, I'd love for you, once you complete your program, to come and work for us as part of this team, because A, you're an inspiration to just everyone else to hear your story, but B, would love the approach that you had. And so that was Sagacity and me joining Sagacity there. And I remember day one, post-graduating, the first role I had at Sagacity was to go and look at the student experience, funny enough, as people coming into university and what the student experience really is. And I remember standing at the front doors of, I think, Swinburne at that time and welcoming students. But it was a consulting experience again. I was a consultant understanding the role of someone coming in to really understand the pain points that a student had. And it's nerve-wracking to come into a different university in a different world, especially if you're international or even if you're domestic, but understanding that. And I love that. Again, I think I'm a born consultant sometimes. I love that idea. And so I was doing that. And then from there, I started to work on understanding the education system and understanding the technology behind it to see if we could remove bottlenecks to improve the experience. So while I was doing that, it was the network effect. So while I was doing that, I had someone that I met through my career in Protiviti. And funny enough, at that point, and his name, again, I'll drop a lot of people that really inspired me and helped me along my way. It was Abbas Kudrati. And Abbas, I remember, but the first time I met him at Protiviti, he was in a different consulting firm, and we were both on different bidding teams, and we were bidding against each other.
Yeah, right.
And I remember I still remember him saying, "You're not going to win this bid because we've got this bat." And I said, "Well, let's see." Yeah. Anyway, but it was friendly banter. Yeah. But we remained connected, and I followed his career path. He was, he's doing really well today. He's at Microsoft, but I followed his career path. He kept following mine. And he, through a completely different path, landed in Australia, and I did. And he got tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, we're starting an internal team in KPMG, and there's no external consulting. I joined, the role that he joined was to build the internal security team at KPMG. And he reached out to me, and he said, look, they've given me this opportunity. I'd love for you to come and work. Would you be okay moving from someone that was in competition with me to actually working as part of the team? And I was working at Sagacity at that time, and I said, let me think about it. I love what I'm doing at Sagacity. Yeah. And he said, look, I know you've been doing consulting for a very long time. It's very different now that you've got the skills and the understanding of being in the consulting world, it's very different when you're running internal teams because you've got to drive a lot more. You're no longer the consultant that's being paid top dollar. You're part of the team. It's very different. And I can see through your career that you don't have that experience. It would be good for you to come in and work in the team. And so that got me thinking to say, actually, it's true. I've done external consulting. I've advised teams. I've built strategy. I've helped internal teams drive certain outcomes, but I've never been an internal team.
Yeah.
And so that's my reason why. I mean, two, I was very lucky to be given that opportunity by Abbas.
Yeah.
But also it got me thinking of, okay, this is going to be a different challenge because I've never worked in a consulting practice, which is good, but on the internal side now trying to drive strategy and building.
So it's interesting because you look at your resume, your profile, your LinkedIn, you assume that would have been consulting.
Yeah, it's true.
With the name above the door.
Yeah.
Was there any temptation in that time to kind of nudge towards the consulting side, or did you quite enjoy being in that internal focus role?
What I didn't realize when I took on the role, and I remember Abbas, the way he sold it to me, he said, look, come in for a year, help me build the team, and then you can go do what you want next. And 5 years later, I was still working at KPMG because of the complexity. The complexity of building a team for a very large organization, not easy. Buy-in, getting stakeholder buy-in internally when you're the team, getting budgets approved, a lot of work. But I didn't realize then that because I had the consulting background, the consulting side of KPMG, the cyber consulting side, would reached out internally and said, look, you've got this background. You now have both sides of the coin. You've worked externally in consulting and you've got internal experience now. Can you work with us to build out what this practice should look like? We're doing well. We think we're doing okay, but you having both sides of the coin will really help us. Yeah. So I loved it. I mean, as I said, I never thought it would. The experience would play out that way. I was just very open to the idea.
It's interesting because I was actually thinking you're building an internal capability for consultants.
Yes.
So you're consulting the consultants.
It's true.
I mean, if that's poacher turned gatekeeper, poacher. I don't even know what the analogy is for that, but I can imagine that's pretty challenging.
It was because we had. I started to go, how can we? I knew what it was in the world of consulting. One of the things I often picked was you'd have a lot of people who didn't have experience in consulting, especially when you're early on in your career, and also didn't have the experience in running internal teams that were now going and advising clients. And I went, there is an opportunity here because we now have an internal practice. We almost call it ground zero.
Yeah.
How powerful would it be when you have consultants that are coming in early on in their career to have some experience internally?
Yeah, okay.
Now, it brought value to us as an internal team because we now had people that could help us as well build the practice and learn along with us. Yeah. They loved it because they had ground zero experience. So now when they go into their clients, they could communicate going, hey, look, we're not telling you the strategy, but just because we think it's good, we've lived it. Yeah. And so I didn't think of it that way, but I looked at what did I go through when I started? What were the people around me when they started consulting? And to almost use that gap that I saw to say, look, let's provide that. Let's provide that atmosphere for people to come in and learn. And so it was good. It was really, really powerful. The cyber practice loved the idea. We loved the idea as well because we got cross-skilling. Yeah. The other thing we also did is often people, and I hear this today, is people love the world of consulting, but they don't really know what it entails. They go, wow, it's amazing to be a consultant. You come in, set strategy, and off you go, right? And so it allowed me to give the opportunity to internal people in KPMG to see the world of consulting as well. So we do a cross skill. Yeah. So we'd get consultants to come in and work and gain the experience internally, but we also had internal people go and live the day in the life of a consultant. Yeah. So I love that. I think it's a brilliant model. I think companies that have a consulting arm and an internal arm should really use the model. Yeah. But it was good. People loved it, loved the idea. So
you moved on after 5 years, another 3 promotions as well. I'm gonna just add.